Greetings, and welcome to the Business, Engineering, Science, and Technology Academy at Benjamin S. Carson Middle School. Today we'll be working on some CRCT test-taking strategies. These strategies can help our students to be sure that they demonstrate their knowledge on the CRCT. We've broken it down into 3 steps: before, during, and after the test. Before the test, it's important that the students rest. That means they should get to bed before at an early hour, that they eat a healthy breakfast, either at home or arriving at school in time to eat here, and that they're positive about what they're doing. Using the strategy should help to increase their confidence. Next, during the test, we have 8 strategies that students can use. My suggestion is that students take notes on these strategies by setting up their paper for Cornell notes. And on the left side, they write these brief notes. On the right, they write their understanding and explanation of what each strategy means. For pacing, it's important that students begin the test knowing that they're going to go through the test at least 4 times. On the first time through, they'll use their strategies and find their best answers. On the next time through, if they have skipped any items that they didn't know, they should go directly to those skipped items and be sure that they've made an effort on that. On the third time through, there may be additional skipped items, or they may begin to look at the answers, even the ones that were sure were correct, and make sure that they're correct. On the 4th time through, students should now begin to look even at those extremely easy items to make sure they haven't made small errors. A lot of times this involves one word, like the word not in the question, and they should look for those and be careful with them. And they should also look at it this time as if they've never seen each item before. Try to get their minds ready and focus on it. Also, they should pace themselves so that they go through the test at least 4 times and that they use every second that's available. There's only one way to get the answers absolutely wrong, which is not to finish them. The other way is to have a wrong answer that you haven't taken the time to correct. It is important to note that students should only change answers if they're sure about changing it. So this is a process of proving themselves right. On the next one, it's important that students circle the key words in the questions first before reading the passage. This applies across the board. In reading, it applies because often you'll have a long passage with several different items. If students circle the key words in all of the items, then the first time they read that passage, they'll already begin to see some of the clues that will help them, and they can begin underlining those. In shorter passages in science and social studies, oftentimes it's one key word or 1 or 2 key words, even though it's in a short passage, that can make the difference between a right and wrong answer. In math, in word problems, it's critically important to find those important words that give you clues as to what to do, what information is actually not needed, and what you will actually do to solve the question. In English language arts, there are often also subtle clues, such as the tense of words, or whether it's singular or plural, and so on. So circling keywords is a universally good strategy. Next, when they come to the passage, when they have a passage to read, either long or short, it's very important that they maintain interest and also that they pay attention to understand what type of passage it is. Oftentimes in the CRCT, it's important to find the specific details, the inferences that make you come up with a right conclusion. So you would read those very closely. Other times it might be a list of directions where you might not need to read it in quite the same way. But as they do read those, it's important that students maintain their interest. Their characters, they should change their voices as they read the characters. Make it interesting. Next, the students will now go to the questions themselves. They've now seen the questions once because they circled keywords. Then they read the passage. Now they're seeing the questions for the second time. And on this second time looking at the questions, they really need to focus in on those questions and pay close attention and then go back to the passage. When they go back to the passage this time, they are hunting clues. At this point, testing should be like a game, like the game of life. If you have strategies and you do well, you win. So in this case, they're looking for clues that can lead to the answer. A special way to do this is when you read the question and you find a clue that you think works, it's good to underline that clue and write the number next to it. Let's say there are 5 questions on a reading test, and on number 4, you found a clue that goes with number 4. Underline that clue, write the number 4 next to it. It's going to make it much easier for you to come back and review your work, to justify your answer, and be sure that you've chosen the best answer. Next, the process of elimination is an extremely powerful tool. If we think of the process of elimination, we have to consider that if you have 4 choices on a test and you took a blind guess, there's only a 25% chance that you would get that answer right. However, let's start eliminating. Oftentimes on tests, there's one item that's extraneous, that's unnecessary, that you can tell doesn't fit. Now you have a 33% chance of getting that answer right if you had to guess. If you are able to get rid of one more choice for a good reason, now you have a 50% chance of getting the answer right. This is double the chance of 25% when you didn't eliminate it. At this point, you're making an educated guess. If you're able to get rid of a third choice, now you're sure your answer is correct. In the process of elimination, it's also important to remember that we have to read all the choices. One of the mistakes we make sometimes is we might read A and B, and one of those seems to be correct, and we haven't read C and D. It's important to read them all because the test does not actually ask for the correct answer, it asks for the best answer. So we must read all choices. Next, we can use brain science on number 7. Because on step 7, it tells you to skip. If you have several items that you have on a test, and you've gone through your strategies, you've eliminated as much as you can, you've underlined your clues, and all of these things you still don't know, the best idea is to skip that question on the test and the answer sheet and come back to it. Brain science tells us that our unconscious minds, or our subconscious minds, continue working on problems even when we've gone on to the next problem and we're no longer intentionally thinking about it. A good example of this is if we lose our keys in the house. A lot of times, as long as we're searching for those keys and very intent upon finding them, it might be difficult to find. But how many times have you come back later, after you sat down and you rested, and suddenly the idea came in your head when you were doing something else? I know where my keys are. So we'll skip and come back to them. This is also valuable because students sometimes make the mistake of spending too much time on a question at the beginning of the test, and they never get to the end. Sometimes a student may have special knowledge that makes some of those end questions easy. So they're cheating themselves if they don't skip that question and give themselves a chance to try the ones at the end also. The last item here goes back to the beginning really, because it has to do with time. The first thing is all. We must use all of the time we're given. If we took a test, thought we did our best, and yet there were 20 minutes left, it's not logical to sit and do nothing, or even to read a separate book if allowed, because during this time you could be searching and making your answer best. Even the greatest geniuses in the world make mistakes. So we need to make sure that we catch all the mistakes we make. Once again on this one, we need to be reminded we don't change answers until we feel very certain that the new answer is correct. Also true, this process is all about proving yourself right, being sure that you have a very clear reason why you did or did not choose each of the 4 answer choices. So by the time you're done with the test, you've gone through your 4 times, you've taken the time to check over the questions, erase stray marks, make sure everything is correct, that you're confident because you have a reason for each step in the test. Finally, after the test. At this point, I like to think of it as an ugly test. Because on this test, there should be underlining, there should be keywords circled, there should be items eliminated, there should be things even in the items that are circled to show why you eliminated each item. So the thinking is clear and it's on paper. The paper should be fairly ugly. It should be marked up, if you will. However, the answer sheet will be pretty. We've taken the time at the very end to make sure there are no stray marks, and we've done our very best. A pretty answer sheet is a correct answer sheet. So these are the basic rules of test-taking strategies, and now we're going to look at some actual test items. We're skipping through a couple of the slides because I want to, those slides dealt with the detailed notes that the students should have taken, and this is going to go into the first test item. This is a reading test item. I'm going to get the light so we can see this very clearly. On this reading test item, we see that it's a long item, but the first trap we will not fall into is we are not going to read that passage first. That might turn out to be a waste of time. So instead, we're going to go ahead now, and we are going to read the questions and circle the keywords. Now, why should sharp knives be loaded into the dishwasher pointed downward?